Gojo starts to turn the tide, and that's where either the wheel appears over Sukuna or the Mahoraga appears in the final page. Listen, I'm gonna keep it a stack. I know this is gonna trigger some Sukuna fans out there, or maybe a lot of Sukuna fans out there, but I genuinely don't believe the 10 Shadows or the Mahoraga is gonna be a difference maker within this fight here. And before you all go and get your pitchforks and get ready to fuck my shit up, let me explain. Let me fight for my stance right here. While Sukuna is absolutely Sukuna, and he is an absolute demon, and he's been summoning absolute colossal Mothra-like beings like Nu, and then Max Elephant, this motherfucker's been summoning Kaiju. I don't think any one of these shikigami, or even a combination of them, is going to be able to do any sort of considerable damage to Gojo outside of just being a nuisance to him. The major reason I think of these shikigami, excluding maybe even Madoka Dia, and I don't think any of them have the ability to get past infinity, and I'm not even confident Madoka Dia could even do it either. So to be fair, I think if Three Finger Sukuna could get past these shikigami way back when, Gojo fighting Sukuna's version of these shikigami will do the exact same and get past these. I don't think they're going to be a difference maker. Even when Mahoraga is summoned, or even if Sukuna summons Mahoraga, I still don't think it'll be a problem, and I'll give you my reason on it now, as I believe Mahoraga is a special case when it comes to the 10 Shadows technique, within the respect that this motherfucker seems to be sentient rather than just blindly following orders here. The Mahoraga seems to enjoy combat and just being a menace. There have seen many multiple instances where this motherfucker is smiling during his fights here. And yeah, I know this is a bit of headcanon here, but considering the risks to summon Mahoraga and how strong it already is, I don't think Sukuna can influence its size or its power because of the Mahoraga's already pre-existent ability. Because I think if he could influence those two factors, I think he would have already done it in his fight against Yoruzu here. But again, I think now that we've all seen Sukuna and Gojo fight, I think we can all put our agendas aside and say that these two are actually equal in power. Like, this fight is going to take everything that both of these motherfuckers have to edge out a victory in this fight. And I think Sukuna's edge is the Mahoraga's Dharma Chakra wheel, not the Mahoraga itself. We saw Sukuna fight against the Mahoraga, and he figured out its power within a couple of pages, literally one chapter. And I believe Gojo with the 6 eyes will do the exact same thing against the Mahoraga if Sukuna summons it. And I think he's aware of that, and that's why he hasn't used any shikigami. They would just simply be a nuisance to Gojo and slow them down. I believe Sukuna's trump card here in this entire fight will be the way that he uses the wheel in the same way he did against Yoruzu. I think it would be fitting of the theme of this fight here, because within this fight we are just seeing things that have already happened within the series and previous fights, but they're just being utilized in different ways. So Sukuna using the wheel would be the difference maker, I think, because I, for the life of me, cannot see a way Gojo gets past the Dharma Chakra wheels and the adaptation ability with Sukuna using it. Whereas a while back, the main question was, how does Sukuna get past Gojo's infinity? That was like everyone's big question, but now we're well aware that domain amplification is a thing, but the drawback is that Sukuna can't use a technique while using this. However, the Dharma Chakra wheel might be able to get past infinity and also allow Sukuna to use a technique at the same time. But again, as I said, I cannot see any possible way that Gojo gets past this adaptability here without using some crazy application of maybe a pre-existing technique or something new that we've never ever seen before. I just can't see it. I think this might be the moment where Gojo may end up losing the fight, and it's because of that wheel. There is also the possibility of Sukuna using the final shikigami of the 10 Shadows known as Gasho Kuduro, which has been a popular fan theory for a long time now and is constructed off the back of Megumi's domain, when we see him starting to grow a spine and then all of a sudden somehow developing what looks like a nervous system when he fought against Reggie Star. I mean, this is obviously a theory here, and considering from what we've seen with Sukuna and his uses of the 10 Shadows here, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this is something that he could do, considering how skilled he is when it comes to using cursed energy and its manipulation and how efficient he is with it. However, what the abilities of that final shikigami are and what they could do are completely unknown. I have no idea, and it's also a case of whether Sukuna could even use Megumi's domain, and also another matter. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see whether all of this happens here, but I do think that Dharma Chakra wheel of the Mahoraga, and not the Mahoraga itself or even the 10 Shadows, will be the difference maker. Kenny's gonna pull up on the main cast with a bunch of cursed spirits and users. Honestly, I would be so down for Kenny to rock up on the remaining Cullen players here who are moving around the colonies right now and see him finish them off. We get to see him run the gauntlet, sort of. You have to remember that we have Uro still moving around. We have, for some reason, Dido and Mio still moving around here, and then somewhere else on top of this we have Takaba, who is also moving around. We don't see him anywhere at the moment with the main cast here, so he we could still be out and about in the colonies rather than watching this fight. So genuinely, I wouldn't mind us going to Kenny at some point after this fight, but I would much rather Gojo and Sukuna fight and have it be uninterrupted here. But I do think it would be good for us to go to Kenny, running the gauntlet with these characters and these sorcerers after this fight has happened, or maybe even just cutting to him having just off-screen these fooligans. But what I don't want to see is Kenny walking into the room with the main cast sat in it right now, because I cannot lie, I don't think Kenny walks away from that fight with Yuta, Hikari, Maki completely unscathed. Unless Kenny can use Tengen in some sort of crazy way, I cannot see him getting away from that fight unscathed at all. And we also have Mei and then Kusakabe, and there's others sat inside of that room. If Kenjaku has the balls to walk in there without a plan, he's gonna have to have some crazy techniques up his sleeve, or some crazy usage of Tengen up his sleeve. I mean, realistically, Kenny is strong, and we all know this. I said it for such a long time, but Yuta and Rika would give Kenjaku a strong fight in the same way Yuki and Garuda did, but in a way more versatile manner, I think. Already know that Yuta has the second most cursed energy in the series by himself, plus then he has 5 minutes from Rika and then the copy technique, and then say you pair Yuta with Maki, who I think would be the best combination for Yuta, considering their friendship and their chemistry and possible even relationship, for depending on who you ask in the fandom. Kenjaku now has to deal with someone who is indescribably strong, like literally Toji level strong, fast as fuck, and then if he loses visual track of Maki, he will not be able to sense it because she has no cursed energy. And then on top of that, you have Maki wielding the Soul Liberation Blade, which in and of itself is a whole problem. And now let's say we add Hikari into this mix. He is an absolute wild card who just keeps rolling jackpots and just keeps pressuring Kenjaku for 4 minutes 11 seconds because he's fucking immortal. It's seriously going to be a genuinely tough fight for Kenjaku. He's going to have to figure out a way to separate these people and get them into a 1v1 situation. But like I said, Kenjaku with the Chaos Spirit manipulation and his anti-gravity technique, it could even the odds against these four absolute powerhouses of Yuta, Rika, Maki, Hikari. But he is genuinely going to need all the help that he can get. And we might even find, even with Tengen at his side, he might be able to use Tengen in a way that is actually an offensive way, rather than just defensive barriers. We haven't seen much of Tengen's fighting prowess, if Tengen can even fight outside of just constructing barriers. But depending on what those barriers can do and interact with everyone else, it could be the difference maker. We cut back to the sorcerers, who are all excited about Gojo's attack, but the chapter focuses on Kashimo and his desire to go and fight Sukuna. Listen, I've said this a couple times now, but I am genuinely surprised that Kashimo is here, considering, and being just a patient dude, considering he's been waiting for Sukuna for literally years. He's just now sat around waiting for Sukuna to finish his fight with Gojo. He has literally waited hundreds of years for this fight, to now basically just be a cook sat in the cook chair of the hotel room while someone else fucks his man. Is wild character change right now. You also have to consider that this dude has a case technique, and he's developed specifically this for the case of fighting Sukuna. Like, it's a one-time use, which brings me to the point of Kashimo's technique here. Now, I talked about this recently on the Tournament of Power stream with Kaio and Blaze, and I mentioned how a while ago I made a video and loved the idea of Yuji using a bind and vow in a similar way to how Gon from Hunter x Hunter traded his nen and his years of his life basically to have the ability to get all of his future potential given to him at that moment. Now, during that live stream, I said Kashimo was willing to die to Hikari in that fight before using that technique. It's a one-time use type of deal. Now, that to me sounds like there is an implication of either death or not being able to use his powers ever again, potentially not even be able to use cursed energy ever again. Now, if those implications are true, I would wager that Kashimo's technique could possibly be something similar to Hikari's, where he has unlimited cursed energy until he beats the opponent. I mean, it could be something completely and utterly different, but I'm a fan of the idea and the theory that someone somewhere in the series will use a binding vow upon themselves to create this like limit removing power. We saw it with Yuta now. We see it with Hikari sacrificing his arm to survive a blast. So I think it would be a really cool sequence if we got Kashimo, who had basically put out this plan in his brain to make the binding vow and just go absolutely crazy. And the theme right now within Jujutsu Kaisen has just been reusing stuff that we've seen seen before, but in a completely new and interesting way. So that would be my theory about this technique. But that is everything from me. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the video. Please be sure to subscribe, as it always does help out the channel. And as always, a massive shout out to all the members on the channel. If you haven't already, consider becoming a member to the channel, as it always does help me out for some extra cool benefits. But that is everything from me, and as always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, peace.